Okay, so recently went out to my Saturn and the front floorboard, and actually the front floorboard of the driver's side and the passenger side was full of water. And I was like, oh man, now what? So as it turns out, it's the sunroof that's leaking, and in my case, it was in the front. And um, basically, what's happening is every sunroof. Let me go back just so I can think of this. So every sunroof, whether it's in a sedan, an SUV, or whatever that is in late model cars, has four drains. And those drains are in the corners of the sunroof. Like if you open the sunroof and you look at it, look down in there, you'll see four holes, two in the back, two in the front, one in each corner basically. And then those drains have a hose, or yeah, I guess it's a hose, that in the front, in this case, what I'm doing, those drains run from the sunroof corner down underneath the headliner, down the post that's next to the windshield on the outside, and then down into the fender somewhere where it drips out. Right. Same thing on the other side. We'll go through that here in just a second. So to clear these drains, the tools I needed on the Saturn Vue was a nut driver 9/32, and actually I think that might be 10 millimeter, but this works. And a VT15 hex driver or bit. So that's really all that I used. This is the Saturn Vue, and I think they're the same, pretty much the same from '02 to '07. The body styles changed after '07, and you no longer have the what I consider a Saturn with the plastic sides and things like that. And just so you know, that drain runs right down on the inside of this pillar here, and then runs out down here underneath the fender. So if you're thinking about cleaning this end too, you would actually have to take this fender off to actually get to that. I'll show you a picture of that also later in this presentation. So I tried to get a picture of the corners, but you can right there you can barely see the hole in this one. Look, there's a stick in there. I didn't even notice that. So all kinds of things get down in this gutter and this to clog up these drains. Interestingly enough for me, I had two cars get clogged up on the same day. This Saturn and the other one was a Mercury Montego I have, and it was full of pollen. So this was in May. So this is just where you'll find that you'll see just a little hole where the water drains down in there. This is a zoom out of that. So that hole would be just over here in this corner, and like I said, there's three others, one in each corner of the sunroof. That drain in turn comes down through the headliner, runs down this pillar, and you'll take this pillar off. I'll show you how to do that here in a second. And then down into the fender. That's where I was going to show you, down into the fender. So what you need to do first thing is pull the headliner down, and this is not difficult, and you're not going to break it. The headliner is like it's like cardboard. Yeah, there's something else in it, space age polymers, let's just call it, because I don't know what it's made out of. But it's not like the old-fashioned headliners where if you mess up this headliner, you got to get a whole new one and all that. It's pretty stout. So the first step is to this is where you use the VT15. Take these screws out, and then take the screw out that's holding this piece here, and then remove the sun visor. And then the next thing you're going to do is remove the cover on this pillar. And all of this is really simple. It's one thing I like about the Saturns is they do come apart fairly easy. Right here behind this little clip, you just use a screwdriver or a knife or anything and just pop that off. Pry it from the bottom and it'll pop out. There's a screw in there that's where I use that 9/32. So you take that screw out, and really there are clips that are holding this in place, and you just pull and it'll snap right out. And then once you get the side pieces pulled out, just pull straight out, it'll come, and you just lift up and this whole piece will come right out, and it goes in. Don't worry, you're not gonna you're not going to be able to not put this back together. It goes back together just as easy as it comes apart. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to So now you're actually at the point where you can pull down your headliner a little. Um, like I said, it's not terribly, well, how do I word this? It's hard to break it, but know that you can. So when you're pulling it down, don't just like grab it and pull it. Just start pulling it down a little. The only thing that's holding it up at this point, because you've already taken this piece off, um, is this rubber right here, this rubber seal. So you're going to pull down a little bit right here on the headliner, and then what you'll see is you'll expose the where you can see up in there, and you'll see the little tube I'm talking about. I think I have a picture here next, and I apologize for not taking better pictures as I was actually doing the job, but once I got it back together, I thought I would share it. However, I didn't want to take it apart again. So this is what the hose or the drain hose from the sunroof looks like. So this is the headliner down here. It's just pulled down some. It's not completely taken off. And actually, I did one side at a time. I believe if you did both, you'd have a lot more room. But I did one side at a time. So this is up over here. This is looking outside the sunroof. And I actually stole this picture from a YouTube video just because I thought it would be good for reference here, and I do reference that video at the end of this one. So in other videos, they'll tell you to repair the Saturns, because apparently what happens on this drain for the Saturns is it just falls off. So if you have a lot of water coming down out of your headliner, sometimes what has happened is this drain is just fallen off of here. So what they tell you to do is use super glue and zip tie. And I actually have these backwards. Do not put the super glue here, whatever you do. The super glue, I need to fix that. I'm going to fix it right here where you guys are watching. So the super glue actually goes here, and the zip tie goes here. Basically what you're doing, I can't believe I did that. Okay, there you go. So you super glue this just to keep the actual hose inside this rubber grommet or rubber end piece, and you zip tie this onto the nipple that sticks out of the sunroof. Right, so you put your zip tie here and your super glue there, and that'll actually keep it from coming off. Because sometimes the simple fix for these is really just to you'll pull this headliner down and you'll go, man, that thing's not even attached. Well, don't just plug it back on there. Take a little time, super glue this part right here, just a little, not a ton, just to keep it on there, and zip tie this piece onto the sunroof. And actually, this is what it looks like when it's off. And what we're going to do to clear the hose out is, or at least what I'm going to suggest, what a lot of people will tell you to do is take an air compressor and blow air down into the hose. And since the other end of this hose is hard to reach on a view, because in some cars you can actually reach the other end of the hose and clean it out on that end. Because if you're blowing air, in my mind, if you're blowing air down into the hose, you're just moving it down to the other end. However, in the view, you actually have to do that. It's the only way I can think to clean these things without taking the fender off. So what I did is, once you pull this down and you detach the drain from the nipple up here, just pull this out. You're not going to break it. Pull it out away from the headliner. And what I did, and you can choose to spray air down in there or however you want to do it. What I did is I literally just blew into it. And on the driver's side of this Saturn, it was so plugged I couldn't force air through it. And I'm talking about blowing into it using my mouth, right? So I kept blowing, and finally it broke loose, broke free, and cleared it out. And since the water was coming in on the driver's side, I thought I had fixed it, so I buttoned everything back up. And then the very next day, when it was raining, I had water back in the driver's side, and I'll explain what happened there. What happened is I didn't clean the other side. The other side was plugged up, and this drain was not enough to keep the water from coming in. You need both drains. So I cleaned the passenger side the exact same way, and then took a hose and dumped the water on top of the car, and it seems to be fine. So you pull this out and basically just blow through it till you can there's no restrictions on air. You're more than welcome to use a air compressor too. Totally up to you. That's just the way I did it. I found this snapshot also on YouTube, but just to show you, this is an 07 Saturn Vue, and like I said, it would be the same for 02 through 07. But this right here is where that tube from the sunroof actually comes out. So if you wanted to clean that, you'd have to take this fender off, or at least loosen it on this side. I'm not sure how else to do that, but it comes down through this pillar, and then exits right here, and that's it sticking out. So when the water drains, you'll see it coming down behind the tire. So just for reference, because I looked forever for that right there. Cleanup. So you've had water in your floorboard, and I do recommend a wet vac. You got to get that stuff up. You'll get mold. It'll start stinking, especially on hot days. It's muggy in there. So to lift that carpet up, it's real easy. There's a kick plate, and this is the driver's side. You can see where the you pull this to raise the hood. But basically, you pull this kick plate off, and this is just snapped on. So I have the red arrow right here showing just pull this kick plate to the right and it'll unsnap. And you got to lower it to get it off. But the other piece you got to remove is this part of the kick plate right here where you, I guess, step plate. It's all one big piece that goes up underneath there. These just pull up. So there's I think there's 3 locations I had to pull up. This one was the hardest for whatever reason. Seemed to be a little rusty there. Don't know why. But don't fear it. Just pull it. This one will be hard, but once you get this one up, these just kind of come up, and this whole thing just comes off. Pull your carpet back, because you may have used a wet dry vac, which I recommend. Totally recommend using a wet dry vac on the carpet until it changes color, because it will hold a ton of water. Pull the carpet back, and you'll find that there's water underneath it. There's some spongy material and water, and it kind of really stinks actually. And use the wet dry vac there. And it may be actually a good idea just to fold the carpet back and let it sit there for a while and let some of that dry out. But you can see where it's gray colored here, that's water. And back here where I don't think there was water here, but the wet dry vac actually got a lot of this up. And then this plastic kick plate, it goes right back on just the way you took it off. The one thing about the Saturn that, like I said, that I really liked is the piece parts of this vehicle are really easy to remove, take apart, do a little work to. I guess that's a good thing. I guess in a car you don't want to have to do something, but this is an 07 and sunroof drains do get clogged. I don't care what kind of car it is. For reference on this material, I did do a YouTube search for Saturn Vue drain clog. There's a video out there. The guy does a really good job of showing where a Saturn Vue drain actually came unattached. That's a real good video. I don't know how to, maybe I can link this into the comments of my movie. And then there's another video out there showing how to take a fender off, where I showed you how to do that, or showed you where that exit drain was for the video. Anyway, guys, I hope this helps. If you have any questions, throw some comments in there, and I'll answer you as soon as I can. It's not a full-time job for me, but the whole point of my videos are if I can do it, you can do it. And I was able to do this, at least right now. It appears to be working. So good luck to you, and subscribe.